Good morning, everyone. Well, I'm going to record a PowerPoint presentation. It's included in the participation that you're looking at this week, but I'm going to record the lecture just because some of you like to do things asynchronously, and I thought this might help a little bit. But this covers participation project number 4, I believe, and we're going to take a look at it and see. I keep clicking, hoping to advance, and it's not working. Okay. So the topics covering this are formatting cells, applying cell styles, conditional formatting, and color scale formatting. All of those are things that you're going to cover in the participation project. They're easy peasy, and I'd just like to introduce them to you as a concept. You saw them in my lab, and I hope this is familiar to you. So the formatting tools are up under Home. You've got all kinds of stuff. Let's see here. You've got your indent options if you want to move text in or out. You've got wrap text. That plays a big role in your homework, so make sure you're familiar with where it is. It's this button right here. You got merge and center. You got all kinds of things. Let me move ahead and let's go to some specific ones. The merge and center tool is going to be the one I think you use most often. And if you take a look here, what they've done is highlight cell A1 through J1. If you highlight that and then you hit the merge and center button, just the button itself, it's going to merge all those cells. B1 through J1 are no longer going to exist. It's only going to be cell A1. And it's also going to center the text that's in that cell. It's really handy when you're working with tables to put a title or something over over the table. If you hit the little down arrow, you can do things like just merging or actually unmerging cells. So you have some options there. You can see here you've got merge and center, merge across, just plain old merge cells and unmerge cells. So that little down arrow that you saw will give you all those options. Just keep that in mind. Very handy. Cell styles. That is different than formatting as a table, and Microsoft confusingly puts those right next to each other. The format as a table we used in the previous lesson, where you would highlight a bunch of cells and you would tell it, let's make this a table, and you would tell it how you wanted to look, sort of an all-in-one button. This here just formats a particular cell. So for example, a lot of times we'll tell you to merge and center something and then make the merge cell a heading 1. He is always going to tell you in the participations, the homework, the exam, what to look for. So, just when you're told to do a cell style, you click on the cell or cells you're asked to style. It's a little bit of a tongue twister, and then you simply pick what you need. Okay. What I ask that you do is, unless you're in my lab or something like that, so you simply need to pick the one that's close enough. So for example, if he says, let's say it's, I'll pick a ridiculous one, 20% accent 1.5. You can't find that. Pick something close. If you have applied a style in the participation of the homework, I'm going to be pleased. Okay? That's all you have to do. Add borders. Again, I ask you sort of to use some common sense here. When we ask you to put a border on, I am not going to ask you to worry about whether it's the triple thick border or the double thick border. If he says add a thick border, typically if you hover over it, it'll tell you which one it is. But use your judgment. If you've got a border, I'm generally pretty happy. So what you would do there is select the section of cells that you want to add borders to. You go to Home, in the font section, click the drop down by the border, and then so that you get all the options, select more borders, and then just follow the instructions there. It's relatively easy to do. Again, all I'm looking for is, do you have a border, not do you have the specific border that I want. You just need to get in the habit of making sure it's there. Now, format values. This to me is really important, and this is something I want you to pay attention to, because if you turn in a sheet where the cells aren't formatted correctly, not only is it hard for you to read, but it's hard for me to understand what kind of point you're trying to make. So you want to make sure that when we ask you to format a cell, be it as currency with a specific decimal place, you do that, because it's really important for the usability and legibility even of the spreadsheet. So here again, you just select the range of cells you want. You go to the home ribbon, and in the number section, click the arrow at the bottom right corner to open the Format Cells dialog box. It's a little, I call it an expand button. It's right there. And then this comes up. You can do whatever you please with it. One thing I'll point out is whenever something's negative, typically Access either puts Excel puts a negative sign in front of it or makes it red, or heck, sometimes it puts parentheses in front of it. It's helpful if you pay attention to this because then you understand what's going on. It's just like I said when you see pound signs the other day. If you know what that means, you're ahead of the game. Setting row and column width. You've seen me do this a little bit, but honestly, the easiest thing to do is select the columns you want, go under Format, and then you pick the correct option. If we tell you to make a row or a column a specific height, you would pick those two options, whichever you need. Or if we tell you simply to auto-fit things in so that everything fits, just select auto-fit row height or auto-fit column width, or even double-click up here in between the two columns, and it'll do that automatically. That's one of the nicest things you can do. If you have columns that have a lot of extra space and you can sort of thin them down a little bit, that's going to be something that makes your spreadsheet a lot easier to digest. And then that's basically what I was saying there. Format cells, you can select the font size so that things fit in there. So basically you pick the cell and then you go up and pick the font size. In this case, you don't have to highlight, I believe. Just pick the cell. You can bold cell contents. I don't think you've had a problem or anyone's going to have a problem with that. Now the vertical alignment, though, as I've jumped ahead a little bit here, is what is helpful. You can select the range of cells that you want and change the vertical alignment. That means where it's going to be put in the actual cell itself. So let's say you got a whole bunch of text in here. Well, you can either pick it to be up at the top, in the middle, or down at the bottom, and that can make a big difference for readability. And I would encourage you to look at that, and sometimes, after your worksheet's done, you may want to adjust things a little bit, but typically what I would do is pick a style and stick with it. And your instructions will tell you what to do. This is going to come in handy for your analysis questions. Text wrapping, oh my goodness, enable this. If you are typing a bunch of text in here, what you want to make sure you do is that the text wrap and it doesn't just spill over into the next cell and go on forever. And then I got to scroll out for 40 or 50 columns to figure out what's going on. All you have to do is click the cell and then go up here to the text wrap button and wrap the text. It is a godsend for me when I'm grading. And honestly, if you have to look at a worksheet and somebody hasn't wrapped the text, you're going to be a cranky person. So keep that in mind. Conditional formatting. You guys deal with this and have dealt with this on the courses schedule. If you go to courses.wvu.edu and you go to search for a course, for example, English 101, you can find out whether it's wide open, there's no conditional formatting, whether it's almost full, I think it's yellow, or if it's full, it's red. That lets you find data that you're interested in a great big column. And let's face it, if you're looking at the English 101s in the courses website, there's a boatload of them. And to find the one that's open, say, just as you're coming up to class, can be difficult. And that's why they've got these conditional formatting statements in there. All you need to do is highlight what you want, and it's going to change the appearance of the cells depending on the values they contain. The formatting can make it easier to pick up specific types of values in a large sheet of data, like whether a class is open or closed. Okay? The way you do that is just what we've got on the screen here. You select the range of cells, you go to the home, and in the style section you can click conditional formatting. You select highlight cell rules and more rules, and then you put the formula in. Now, when we in class go over the actual participation, I'm going to show you a couple of tricks. One thing that I will tell you, I'm going to go back a slide, is here where it says the highlight cell rules and it's got some pre-programmed ones in there. A lot of times Dr. Powell in the homework or in the participations will say he'd like you to find a value that's greater than or equal to a specific a specific value. Let's say it needs to be greater than or equal to 1001. All right. Well, if I have to go to more rules and generate it, and I get something that looks like this, I'm probably going to get it wrong. What I have found that's particularly helpful to me is if I simply pick greater than and tell it I'd like it to be greater than 1,000, even if it needs to be greater than or equal to 1,000. I'll tell it that it needs to be greater than 1,000. Let it put the formula in. Then I'll go back and I'll manage the rule, and it will come up with a completed rule, and there'll be a little drop down where all of this is already filled in, and I just need to change this to greater than or equal to. I don't have to figure out what to click here, what to click here, what to click here. It's all done for me. I just need to change one cell. So keep that in mind. On this slide, he's got a good set of notes for you on what the symbols mean. If you have difficulty with those, you might want to print this cell or this slide out. It's slide 17, and keep it handy for when you're working, especially in in Excel homework 2 or 3. Okay. You can also go in and edit to pick what color you want the cell fill to be with conditional formatting. All of these things you can customize the way you want it to format. You can change the text color. That helps it stand out. See there how to do that. If you have questions, you can ask me. The other thing that he does here that I find particularly useful, and we cover in both participation and I believe homework, is color scale formatting. What it'll let you do is apply a range of colors to help you differentiate between high and low values. So let's say we're looking at COVID results and we want to compare WVU, Harvard, Florida State, some other places, and we'd like to see just comparatively who has low numbers, who has high numbers. Using color scale, you can assign like low numbers to be green and high numbers to be red, and it's easy at a glance to figure out who has the low numbers and who has the high numbers. That's what this is about, and that's what it's for, and you see exactly here how to put that in. Very handy, and you might think of this as conditional formatting and color scale formatting are sort of like, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So keep that in mind. It can help you analyze data pretty darn quickly. That's all I have for today. Of course, we're going to talk on the Zoom, but this is something, we're running about 13 minutes here. It's something for you to look at and think about before we get to the Zoom, and maybe you have some questions. All right? I'm going to stop the show, and I will look forward to seeing you in person soon. Thanks.